To allow users to filter a chart by time period using these buttons, I'll start off on a new worksheet and create a parameter. And I'll call it time period param. I'll set the data type to a string, and for the allowable values, I'll do a list. I want the users to be able to choose between this month, this year, and last year. Then I'll right-click and show the parameter on the worksheet. Then I'll create a calculated field for the general time identifier. And this is how we're going to categorize the different dates into certain time periods. So for the first line, I'm going to do the month of the date equals the month of today, and the year of the date equals the year of today. So if the date falls within the current month and year, it'll return this month, comma, this year. The next time period I want to categorize is this year. So I'll say if the year of the date equals the year of today, then this year. And lastly, I want to check for last year. So I'll say if the year of the date equals the year of today minus 1, then last year. So now that we have these general time periods categorized, I also want to do a specific time identifier. So I'm going to copy what we have in here because it's going to be very similar. So I'll create a new calculated field called specific time identifier, and I'll paste our formula. On the first line, I'll remove the text this year, so we're left with just this month. And now that we have the dates categorized, I need to create another calculated field to determine if it's selected or not. For time select, I'm going to type if the specific time identifier contains the time period parameter, then true, else false. So this formula checks if the specific time identifier contains the time period value in the parameter. To build the structure for our filter buttons, I'm going to move the general time identifier into the columns. Then I'll pull the specific time identifier into the marks and make it a label. So the only difference here is that our general identifier contains the text this year for this month, and our specific one only contains this month. So while we need the specific one for the label, we'll use the general one for filtering. I'll also pull our time select field into the marks and make it a color. And then I'll change the mark type from automatic to a shape. Under shapes, I'll choose a square, and this will give us a basic filter button. And I can increase the size using the size slider in the mark. But I personally prefer rounded corners, so I'm going to go to shapes and choose more shapes. Then I'll select a custom palette I created, and I'll choose a rounded corner container. I'll increase the size a little bit, and then I'll go to the label, and for the alignment, I want it to be horizontally and vertically centered. I'll also change the font to be a little bit bigger and a little bit darker. Then I'll use the legend on the right to edit the colors. And I'll use a custom color palette I created so that false is a light beige and true is a darker version of that color. For formatting, I'm going to right-click on the header and uncheck Show Header. Then I'll right-click Format the Worksheet, and under the borders, I'm going to remove the row divider. And the boxes are looking a bit small, so I'm going to use the size slider to increase the size of them. I also want the most recent to be on the left side, so I'm going to right-click on our general time identifier field and hit Sort. And I'll sort by manual so I can do this month first, then this year, then last year. On a dashboard, I'll add our time filter worksheet. I'll hide the title of the worksheet, get rid of our parameter and our legend, and then I'll set the worksheet to the entire view. To add functionality to our filter buttons, I'll go to the Dashboard tab at the top, go to Actions, and I'll add a parameter action. For the source sheet, I only want to have the time filter worksheet checked off. I'll be targeting our time period parameter and using the specific time identifier as the source field. And now I can interact with the buttons that turn darker when they're selected. But it's not actually filtering our chart yet, and that's because I need to go to the worksheet that we have our chart on and bring our general time identifier field into the filters. Under conditions, I'll do it by formula, and I'll say contains general time identifier, comma, the time period param. And if your chart and Access are on the same worksheet, you're good to go. But for this chart, I have it split up into two worksheets. So to apply this filter to my other worksheets, I'll right-click on our filter, go to Apply to Selected Worksheets, and I'll check off Access, but you can apply this filter to as many worksheets as you want. And now we can use our time period filter buttons to filter any chart we want. And this gives us more flexibility because we can use time periods that have overlapping dates, like this year and this month.